facilitator to help us put our thoughts to paper. And she has done a remarkable job, and she needs to be commended for the speed in which she helped us get organized to get this plan approved to meet the needs of the legislation. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, President Shack. You have the document in front of you, and you're going to go through. You'll see red words, and I'm going to go through to tell you why these words were added, or why sections were added, and what's been removed. So the first that you'll see in the narrative under the introduction, ODE asked us to make sure that we reference the Reading Achievement Plan and the 11 District Plan throughout the Academic Achievement Plan, explaining that the literacy and the literacy achievement is the focus of academic improvement in the Youngstown City School District. So we have some to talk about that. And then we go in from the Reading Achievement Plan to talk about the aspects of the 11 District Plan that impact the overall academic improvement plan. What's important to ODE is that the district has the one plan, and that's where we started this entire academic improvement plan. Had to start from there. And then the district is also has an approved reading achievement plan, and the district has been given the 11 district plan, which is the DOE case for students with disabilities. So it was important to ODE that we make sure that we were aligning all of those three plans were aligned into this plan. On a first go-round of this, we had included more with the 11 district plan. We went to an iteration meeting we were told to take those things out, so we did that. But they want more contextual understanding of the 11 district plan and how it relates to the Reading Achievement Plan. And with me tonight is someone you all know, is Christine Sawicki. She's your Chief Academic Officer, so if there's any particular questions, she knows these plans inside and out. But there were real specific items that the adults and the educators in the district were required to meet, and those have been put in here. And then the 11 district plan, let's talk about the student outcomes. The student outcomes in the 11 district plan, the DOE case plan, graduation rates were to improve for students with disabilities. The attendance rate for students with disabilities were to improve. Reading and math proficiency rates needed to improve. Post-school outcomes to improve. Percentage of students with disabilities receiving special education service in the least restrictive environment, that needed to increase. You might recall we had a very specific goal about that in the one of the original plans, and in an iteration meeting that was asked to be removed. But it was asked to be removed because they don't want to have a specific number around that. It's just that the district was working to place students in the least restrictive environment. Language and literacy rates to improve with students for disability, and K-3 literacy measures to improve for students with disabilities. So you all know the plan well enough by now to know that all of these 24 benchmarks deal with improving literacy, and I should say 21 of them. Improve literacy, improve math, improve graduation rates, improve attendance. The only ones that don't do that are science, government, and American history. So then if you move to everything else remains the same, on page 5, just you'll see the aforementioned plans. You'll see that was eliminated just for clarity purposes. On page 6, we were asked to really be careful about writing about the state support team. Your district's done a fabulous job incorporating the state support team into all of its work. But it's important that we don't put the state support team in a position of monitoring the academic plan. They do monitor the tiered fidelity inventory. But, so we tried to make that clear that the state support team is a partner with the district. So that's in the first paragraph of that page. When you go down to monitoring systems, then that state support team also, we had that listed as one of the, we had talked about independent monitoring, and we had listed that the state support team does work to help implement the tiered inventory, fidelity inventory. But we we struck the line that said it was independent monitoring because the SST is a partner. The SST serves on your district leadership team, so it's not independent. In the next paragraph, then, the district leadership team, which includes teachers and principals, academic instructional coaches, and district office personnel, they will be the folks who will be monitoring this academic plan throughout the years of the plan. But ODE said it would be a good idea for the district to consider a third-party independent monitor. So that's something for this board or the board of next year to determine at a later date. This needs to be, the district has worked very well with the review team, and we asked for clarification on that yesterday or Friday, if we could use the people on the review team. And again, the answer is no, because they are very tied in with the district and the works of the district. So when you go, if you choose to select an independent monitor, you need to go a third party, somebody completely out of the district, but somebody who knows the information. As you've read through this gets really specific in the strategies. So you're going to want to hire somebody who knows and understands strategies that are being used in the district. Yes?
I have a question about your paragraphs under monitoring systems. As we were told before, if you can hear me, we were told before that this plan is not supposed to discuss the how. And so that's where I am again. How are there going to be, like, okay, by the third quarter, second quarter, we need to be at this particular point in terms of our academic movement? Is any of that included in the monitoring process?
I don't. I'm going to leave that question to, that what you're asked for in the timeline here is benchmarks at the end of the year. Have you met those benchmarks? How you get to that?
That's not what I'm asking.
I know.
The end of the year is too late.
How you get to that and how you get to those benchmarks is a how question.
Yeah, okay.
How are you going to get there? So, Christine, if you have something that you want to add to that on quarterly assessments or process.
Yes, depending on which benchmark we're talking about, we have different measures in place, different assessments in place. So for example, NWEA assessments, any of the benchmarks that deal with that, we administer that assessment 3 times a year. So we're looking at that 3 times a year, and then actually at the end of the year to see the progress made. So again, just based on the assessments and the time frame, we're constantly monitoring. We have weekly look-for tools that we use to look at adult implementation, and then also the outcomes of the students.
So that's particularly identified in the plan, those dates and times, whatever?
No, because that changes each year based on the school calendar and when those assessments are given. But it is a practice that's in place now.
All right, so there are no more edits until we get to literacy benchmark 1. And this was a technical revision we were asked to make, but we added a little more to it. The benchmark, or the edit that we were asked to make was in the baseline data. ODE called this incomplete. It's not that the benchmark was incomplete, but it's because we said in here that we would not have data to reflect this benchmark until the end of the 21-22 school year. So what they ask us to do is, because there are 3 of these, and what they ask us to do is, because we're going to use benchmark data, or we're going to use baseline data for 21-22, they ask us to write in here that the district will submit a request to modify the AIP and this benchmark's annual targets after a complete baseline of data is available, projected late spring, early summer of 2022. So you'll see that 3 times.
I was just going to say, just to add to that, because people may say, well, we have baseline data here, but that baseline data is related to the Haggerty assessment, Haggerty assessment. So if you see there, we're moving to use the Pele assessment for that future year, and that's how they're asking for that adjustment.
And then to just tie in again, we were asked to reference, throughout the plan, we were asked to reference the Reading Achievement Plan and the 11 District Plan. So we did that. You'll see in every one of these literacy benchmarks, you will see that the sentences in there about literacy being a focus of improvement. And you will see also that we refer to Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant. The district receives 3 of those grants, so we have added those grants, the appropriate grant to the grade level to each one of those, and that these meet both the RAP, the Reading Achievement Plan, and the intent of the 11 District Plan. On page 9, which is the strategies for the first benchmark, the only thing that we did there is that we reinforced again that all of these strategies come from the Reading Achievement Plan. And so we've noted that, as noted in the district's Reading Achievement Plan. And then all of the strategies that dealt with decision rules, we added to that because they asked to make sure that they know this information, they helped create and they approved the decision rules. But they wanted to have written in here so anybody else who reads the plan understands that decision rules were created to determine targeted interventions, and they are aligned at each grade level. So that's just a reassurance comment that we heard from our meeting last week. And if I misspeak or if I leave something out about the meeting, President Shad and Vice President Svetkovich were at that meeting. So please jump in if I do something out. Okay, so benchmark 2. What we were asked to do on this, you will see the same paragraph here, and you'll see the references to the Reading Achievement Plan and to the 11 District Plan. We were asked to state for the NWEA map and for state assessments, what is our high success goal? What are we really looking for when we get beyond these 3 years? What is the district's long-term goals for high levels of success? So for all of the NWEA and former DIBELS, now called Acadians, for all of those benchmarks, the district's long-term high level of success goal is 100%, because the district wants 100% of their students to meet their yearly growth goals. So so you'll see that and that. You're going to see that for the state test, it's going to be 80% because that's the state mark. So 80% is achievement, yeah, proficient or above. All right. So to the strategies on page 12, you will see all of these that say, as noted in the district's reading achievement plan. You'll see the mention of the decision rules. And on 5, you're going to start seeing specific references to the 11 district plan. And this has to do with what's happening with students who are in self-contained classrooms or who are participating in alternate assessments. And the district is providing Tier 1 instruction for all of those students, so we're noting that. Noting that all the scholars are going to be included in that testing unless the IEP declares that that child should not be tested. IEP is a legal document, and that's something the district has to pay very close attention to. But they are going to be rare exemptions. And tiered professional development plans for access for all training. And this is work that helps the adult implementation, and that's per the 11 district timeline. So benchmark 3 is going to be the same. The literacy paragraph, the references to the 11 district plan and the reading achievement plan, and that the district's long-term goal for high levels of success for their meeting their own growth is 100%. If you go to the strategies, same. You're going to see the reference to the reading achievement plan. You're going to see the sentence about decision rules. And then we go to benchmark 4. And I'm going to start sounding like a broken record, but that's when, different people look at this plan and read through it, so it's important that we just continue to reiterate. So benchmark 4 is the same all the way through. Benchmark 4 strategies, you'll see as noted in the district's reading achievement plan. You'll see the decision rules, and that's all the same. And benchmark 5 on your page 18 is the same. A lot more strategies here. So you'll see strategies 1 and 2 referencing the reading achievement plan. They ask for some clarity on using my perspectives and pre-AP at the same time, and it in fact is not being implemented at the same time. And so there is a description here and there's explanation about the fact that my perspectives has been used for approximately 3 years. Teachers have been trained and supported on it. It's part of the reading achievement plan. There's a professional development portion of the reading achievement plan, and that had a timeline that my perspectives would be used with 100% fidelity by 2021. The pandemic set that back a bit. It required that timeline to be moved back, but it is continuing. The district is continuing to work towards that 100% fidelity by 22. Their professional development does continue with that, and the district created literacy look-for tools, which was also a significant part of the 11 district plan. On strategy 3, teachers were provided 15 hours of professional development for the College Board and pre-AP this past summer. And gaps have been identified with my perspectives, and the teachers are going to be using resources from from pre-AP as resources to fill in those gaps. 4, 5, and 6, the rest of them all deal with the reading achievement plan and just have that introductory clause added for clarification. On benchmark 6, this is the district's long-term goal for high levels of success for all third grade scholars is 80% passing the literacy portion of the Ohio State test. And then you have the literacy, a couple of sentences, and you have the reference to the RAP and the 11 district plan. On page 23, you have the introductory clause about RAP on all of those. Benchmark 7. This is a new target of 64%. ODE, when they sent out the letter and when they talked to us, they required, which we had not been given this information before, we had set our targets based off of the 2021 school year targets to make improvement. ODE sent back to us and talked with us on the call that they wanted all of their targets to be higher than 2018-2019. So that is the reason for the increase in this. And then the sentence has been added here on page 24 that this benchmark meets the 11 district plan expectation of increasing math proficiency for students with disabilities. And it addresses the high level of success goal of 100%. Again, this is an NWEA assessment. So we are wanting to, the district is wanting to make certain every student makes his or her expected growth. So as a result of that 64%, the yearly targets were adjusted to get to 64%. Benchmark 8, we start on page 26. Again, a sentence has been added that this benchmark meets the 11 district plan, expectation of increasing math proficiency for students with disabilities, the long-term goal for high levels of success for the scholars. This is again NWEA MAP is 100%. Benchmark 9. Yes.
I do have a question about the targets. Do I address that to you?
Well, it depends on your question, and then I'll let you know.
Okay. When I look at 24-25 school year, we're targeting 51% of our students, which leaves 49% of them. So is there anything in the plan that addresses what we're going to be doing about that bunch of kids?
This plan is to show progress to exit ADC. And this plan is to show progress. And in fact, ODE acknowledged in their letter that the district did a good job of reflecting the tension between setting ambitious goals and addressing where we are to make that progress. So as you talk about this for 8, what we've done to address those other, the district is going to attempt to get 100% because that's the long-term high success goal. So the other 41% are going to, all of the students are going to be instructed in the Tier 1 instruction and given the additional supports. But for the purpose of this plan, to make this progress, it is 51% by 25.
And then my follow-up question then, and I've asked this before and I'm still not clear. How does this plan, or how do these targets, I guess, impact how we should do on the state test? So by 2025, we will be taking the state test again. So if only 51% of, only 51% of our students are in this particular category are expected to be proficient, if you will, then 49% may or may not be. So again, how does that reflect on what we're required to do with the state test?
Well, with the state test this year in 6 through 8, I don't believe you were in double digits, period. So if you get to 51%, you've made a lot of progress.
But well, I don't know if you will the state hold us accountable.
Well, yeah, the district's going to be held accountable, but your report card at this point in time for the next 3 years is this plan.
Based on this.
You have to make 50% plus 1 of these indicators to make your progress to move out of academic distress. So this is going to become your report card.
Oh, so we don't have to, until we're through those 3 years, we don't have to worry
You're still
about
going to
state.
get the report card,
Right.
but this is what's going to. But I can't stress enough that if the district makes these targets, you are on the path to improving everything for your students. You don't go from 5% to 80% in 3 years. Maybe you will. That would be awesome. You've done some things for a lot of years. For the last 3 or so years, you have good programming in place. You have alignment with all these plans in place. You have professional development that's targeted. It's just not feel-good professional development. You have a lot of instructional pieces that are in place. You need time to be able to do it. If you start doing this, these are all implemented with fidelity, your partnerships, that you continue these partnerships, you're going to see a lot of progress for the students in Youngstown City Schools. On page 28, we have benchmark 9. And this is again an NWEA map. So, and this one particularly meets the 11 district plan. The long-term goal is 100%. Your strategies, we didn't have to change anything in strategies. Okay. On benchmark 10, this is an NWEA map. In order to meet the above 2018-2019 goal, we had to make this benchmark. We made this benchmark 70%, and listed the long-term goal for NWEA MAP as 100, and then adjusted these targets accordingly. You might ask, 2018, 2019, we were at 69%, so moving to 70% isn't a great leap. However, this is done because you're really low right now. You've had 2 years of COVID disruption. And if I were your superintendent and we had set your goals, let's say we set this goal is, the goal is 69%. And we get through, we've done these instructional practices, we've just done all of this good work. And at the end, we end up being 65%. As your superintendent, I would say, great job. We've done a lot of good work, and we can move forward. This is your academic distress exit plan. If your goal was 69 and you get a 67, you didn't make it, period. This is what this plan is about. This is your report card. So it's important that we set the achievable goals and that we make sure that they are aspirational, but you've got to be able to make these goals. And it would have been a very different story without the 2-year disruption of COVID that we've had. And again, ODE recognizes that, and they feel that the district has acknowledged the appropriate tension between ambitious goals, but being realistic with the single digits we're working from right now. So that's just point of clarification. When we get to benchmark 11, on page 32. So OD said all of your benchmarks have to be at the 2018-2019 target goal areas. So that is fine, and this was a goal that previously we had a floor for, and I think it was 7% or something. I have to have my old plan in front of me. But then on top of that, ODE said your 11 district plan, that target for the 11 district plan for these students in 3rd through 5th grade is 33%. So it would be, we weren't forced to change this, but we did, because it would not be rational to require your students with disabilities to score at a 23% and have all of your students scored at 28%. So given that new information, we raised that to 33%. Again, defined the district's long-term high levels of success as 80%. This is a state test, the Ohio State test. We dropped the floor and left those 2021 achievement baseline data, and you know, it's as follows: 3rd grade, 12.5% were proficient, 4th grade, 9.1%, and the 5th grade, 2.6% were proficient. If the district, when the district meets this goal of 33%, will be 371% increase in proficiency. If you look at the targets, then the targets have been adjusted to get the district to 33% by 24-25. The same thing happened with benchmark 12 on page 34. The district and the 11 district plan had set 33% as the goal for students with disabilities. And so we made that for the same reasons as the last one. We made the target, the 24-25 target, to be 33%. We removed the floor. And OD said that was fine, that floor is removed. We put the long-term goal of 80% of our students passing the Ohio State test. Benchmark, we referenced that this directly references the 11 district plan. And we left in these achievement levels because we did band, these levels are banded. So the 2021 6th grade had 6.2% proficient, 7th grade 6.2% proficient, and 8th grade 5.3. So to move from 5.3 to 33%, or to move from these to 33% would be 560% improvement. From 5%.
if I may, because I want to go into a little bit more context about why the floor was removed. First of all, that was a concept that was brought to us by our what we call consideration for ODE, to sort of ensure that as we were growing, no grade level fell below that, and that would be important when we look at that there are unfortunately single-digit performance that is below 7%. But when we look at that, it's not like if we have like 32%, but we had over 7% that we pass it, right? You have to pass with the bench, ultimately with the percentages. So when you look at that, in order for you to have that across the board for those grades, you're going to have everyone performing very highly to be able to get that, because that is across those 3 grade levels. So we would need those students to perform above that 33% in order to get that across the area in every grade. With that, that's
Mr. President,
yeah.
am I understanding, it seemed like what was said at a previous meeting was that if one of the grades missed the target, then that would mean we didn't hit the benchmark. Is that what you're saying?
In this case, no, because originally we asked if we should build them out and have them. We presented it in these bands. Then we asked, well, should we just do each individual grade? And felt that it was good like this. But when you look at those averages, in order for you to have those averages, you're going to have some level. We can't afford for anyone to perform less than 33% in 2025, 2024, 2025. And if we did, to make up that difference, if it was such a big gap in single digit, you would have to have one of those grade levels performing almost at 80% or more to make up that difference, because it's an average. So, with that being said, like, that is going to ensure that every grade level is above that 33%.
On page 35, those targets then have been adjusted to meet that 33%. On page 36, this is benchmark 13, and this is the same situation. 33% is that new target, because this is an 11 district target. 80% is the long-term goal. The 2021, when you break out the areas for algebra was 8.7%, geometry 11.1%. And so then on page 37, you'll see the yearly targets adjusted to meet that goal. On benchmark 14, this was the district included more than math and literacy. The district included science, government, and U.S. history as well. And so 14 is a science goal. This is an NWEA map. So the only thing we were asked to do here was to determine our long-term high level of success. That's the 100%, because that's a goal of students meeting their expected growth. The same is true on page 40 for benchmark 15. It's another science goal. It's for grade 8. And we were asked to put in our long-term goal of 100% for our students making growth. Benchmark 16 is a state test for government. And so there we were just asked to define our high level of success goal For government, it's 80%. '17 is American history. And again, we have our target of 33%, but our 80% is our long-term high-level success goals. On 18, the overall performance index. One of the reasons why the NWEA map or any assessment that's measuring a student's individual growth, his or her expected growth, is because as students grow and as students, this is the value added or the growth portion of the report card, as students meet their expected growth, then the district is also going to see levels of movement in the performance index. And so the overall performance index was moved to 47% because it was, that's higher than the 2018-2019 goal. And this is a specific 11 district goal as well as just a good improvement goal in general. But this was an 11 district goal as well. To get to that 47%, we had to adjust targets, and so those targets are done. On page 47, the Ohio Improvement Process Support, this is just, this was in here before, but the strategy meets, this is a specific strategy that meets the expectation of the 11 district plan. Benchmark 19 is the chronic absenteeism benchmark, and this directly addresses the 11 district plan, and so that was there so that we could continually reference those plans. Graduation, benchmark 20. This is, our target is the graduation rate will meet or exceed 93%. And this, what was added to this was the reference to the 11 district plan. And on our strategies, on the district strategies on page 51, we added language to be specific about the fact that Youngstown City Schools has a support plan, a student success plan for every student in the district. Most districts, the law requires that you have a student success plan for students who are at risk of not graduating. But your district has a success plan for every student. So we've been trying to make that point, and that this success plan requires the counselor to present options to the student and to the family and to present supports to the family of the students in danger of not graduating. And those supports come, there's all the pathways for graduation now. So we hadn't specifically stated that. So we went back and we specifically stated that these supports include alternative demonstrations of competency, specifically career-focused options such as industry-recognized credentials, CTE, and pre-apprenticeship programs. So you'll see that in 20, 21, and 22. 53, what the supports include, to try to really make it evident that every student is getting a success plan here, and that those alternate options for graduation and all the other paths are available and are being discussed with every student well before they get to that point of failure. Benchmark 22, this is an 11 district plan, and we've referenced that. This is one that We don't have, this is the first year the district's going to collect this data. It's a new benchmark. And so this is one where we added to the plan that the district will submit a request to modify the academic improvement plan, and this benchmarks annual targets once you have that complete year of data in 2021. And that projected time to have that data will be late spring, early summer. And you have the credit key given to you on page 56. And the specific language on page, I'm sorry, that other was page 55. And on page 56, the specific language about the supports, including alternative demonstrations of competency and CTE and pre-apprenticeship programs, etc. Diplomacios, this is on page 57, reference to the 11 district plan. And this will also be one of the benchmarks that you will be submitting a request to modify the AIP next year after you have a full year's worth of targets from the 2021 school year. And that data should be available late spring, early summer. And with this one, you have that language again, that the supports include the alternate demonstrations, etc. The expansion of CTE, this is middle school. This is expansion of career technical education to middle school. And this we wanted to, this was an important one. We talked about career technical quite a bit when we were doing our focus groups and talking about what would be good for the students. And this is one then that we will be collecting, the district will be collecting data for the 2021 school year, and then you will submit a request to modify your AIP and your benchmark targets for this benchmark after you collect that full year of data for 21, and that will be projected late spring, early summer 22, I'm sorry. And then what follows from that is your appendix, and there were no changes to the appendix. And Mr. Shad, there is something I do see here that needs to be changed, and it's in those targets where we figured out percentage increase, the difference, the percent of increase in achievement, and those were done with the average that are floor percentages. And so I need to go back and adjust those. The only thing that's going to be different would be instead of like on page 34, I have, well, this one actually is correct, I think. It's farther, it's, oh no, it says the 6th to 8th grade band in math shows approximately 5%. Well, if we go through here and look at that 2021 numbers, that would be a little higher than 5%. This is very close, but it's not exact, so I think we should probably get it exact. But it'll be very close, but I don't want, let's just agree to allow me to fix that piece, because I used that average that we had. I used the floor before and I did not.
So is that reflected in 11 and 13 as well?
Yes.
One thing that we didn't talk about that came from the letter, and it's going to be very crucial that you all, that the board ensures that this is done, is that we had 13% of our students that didn't test. You know, and that was critical to what our outcomes were. You know, you have to have every student move test. And that should almost be a benchmark. Oh, yes, please.
May I get a little clarification to that too, and some reasoning behind that? So our district does a phenomenal job with getting all scholars to test in previous years. That's one thing that we know we need to focus on, because when they're untested, you get 0 points, which plays into the proficiency and then also, more importantly, the performance index. So when we were on remote instruction last year up until March, all scholars were remote. In March, they had an option to come back, and at that time, only 50% of our scholars came back in person to that hybrid learning. The other 50% were still at home, and we were still expected to test them. So we had to make arrangements with parents to bring them in, or we bused them as well. But many of the families were not comfortable because of COVID, hence why they kept them at home. So I feel very confident that since we have them in school, we do our due diligence to get every scholar tested. So I believe that number will come up significantly because we're here in person.
To the chair, can I ask a quick question in reference to that?
Yes, as many questions.
What about the virtual school? How will we be sure that they are?
They apprentice state, so they're coming in to take those assessments.
Okay, thank you.
I have just a quick question. And this was just something that happened actually here. They were on virtual school. And Karen was told that the child would have to come to school to be tested. But she chose not to send her. And so then we get 0 points for that?
Yes.
So is there anything that we can do to, is it a choice of theirs?
They refuse to bring them in. We can't force them to come in. We made every accommodation we could here as far as doing one-on-one testing, having them, Mr. Jennings even offered his office for, you know, a private setting for them to come in, so in case they were afraid of, you know, a classroom setting. But we still had several parents who refused to bring their scholars in. So there was nothing we could do at that point. And of course, as you know, they have to be in the building to test. They can't test off-site at home.
So with the virtual academy, they will know when we have those days where we come in, those are the days and they test us.
Yes, so like this week, whatever their scheduled day is to come in, since they're housed here at Chaffin, they'll just come in and take those assessments. Same thing with like our pre-SAT, our SAT, our end of course exams, anything throughout the year.
So have we had the first NWA map done?
Our NWA map has been done. That is something though that we can do virtually because it's not a state assessment, but we are right now this week in the window for our 3rd grade air assessment, our state assessment. So they do have to come in this week, our 3rd graders who are on the virtual school.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when they sign up for virtual school, they know in advance that they have to bring them
Yes.
in. So we shouldn't have, or we might, you know, parents refusing to bring them in.
The principal has done a really good job of communicating that they do need to come in. They also come in for wellness checks throughout the month, and so far everything seems to be going well.
Yes.
You just tweaked the question. They come in for wellness checks?
We have built in, because they're virtual every day, all day, we want that face-to-face contact. We want to make sure that we can physically see them, check on them, have ability to speak with them, with their counselors, their social workers, you know, the principal, the teachers in person. So, you know, just having them come in, and sometimes it's doing some social emotional activities with them. Sometimes it's actually doing some more interventions and enrichment with them for their academics. So they know that, and it's once or twice during the month that they're coming in.
So we're not talking specifically about health checks. We're talking about, okay.
Right.
Okay.
And they can certainly use the clinics though if they need the health checks, yes.
Dr. Miller, so looking back at this, page 3, is that 7% need to be adjusted there too?
That was the baseline.
Correct. That's okay.
Next step.
I would say the next step is resubmit. We're trying to see right now if there's any more wants to say. But if it's all good, then we just, if everyone agrees, we make the tweaks that she mentioned with the percentages that with the math that we need to correct. And we submit, I don't see why we need to drag it out. And we have to have it done by the 11th.
To the chair,
Yes.
how many benchmarks is there still an issue with the percentages? Do you know which specific benchmarks it is, or?
Oh, I do. It's, and there's, the issue is just that I kept the floor in and I didn't do it. So it's,
What do you mean by that?
so I used, so let's look at 11.
Okay.
I used 7% as the average. Well, we said with none falling below 7%.
Okay,
So.
but that's scratched out.
That's scratched out, and I failed to do that. So for this one I'm looking at right now, the actual average is 8%.
So
Okay, so that it's
you're looking at 6th to 8th grade.
pardon me?
You're looking at 6th to 8th grade.
I'm right now. I'm looking at 3 to 5 because this is. Oh no, that one was okay. Let me see here. It's the 6th through 8th. Yeah. Let me do that.
I know what.
So that we're looking at benchmark 12 then,
Yes.
because that says 5%.
Right. And it has to be higher than 5 because we have 2 and 6 times 2.
I think that 5 was there because the 21,
Yes.
the baseline was 5.
Right. But, yeah. Oh, that's right, it
Yes,
is.
you might be
Yeah.
good.
I'd like to, before we resubmit, I'd just like to go back through all that. Because I actually am coming up with 4.46, so it's really minimal difference. But I'd like to have time to look back at that and make sure every word in that rationale is correct.
So there's only specific benchmarks that has to be fixed in?
Oh, no, the benchmark itself is fine.
Okay.
It's the rationale.
Okay.
I want to make sure it's.
But it's not for all benchmarks, it's not for all of them,
No,
it's
it's
only-
just 11, 12, 13. I want to make certain that we did right, because President Shad's right. The floor and this benchmark were the same, so I just wanted to have the baseline for 2021 on benchmark 12 was 5%. So I just want to make sure that we were consistent as we were changing numbers. I want to make sure that we didn't mess anything up.
What she'll specifically be looking at is in, like, you're looking at page 34.
Yes.
In the rationale, the paragraph that starts, while all rules in YCSD point to high levels of success. You see that paragraph? It's really the second one down, below the red line.
Okay.
The percentages that are in there, she's going to make sure that those are updated correctly.
So the
based on-
6.2, and the 5.3.
Actually above that, where it says like 33%.
Okay, I see those ones
And then
too.
5
Yes.
So that she's just gonna double check that those numbers are all accurate now.
Okay, thank you.
But the benchmark itself, where it says 6th, 7th, and 8th grade by June 2025, and an average of 33% scholars, that will not change.
Okay.
It's small, but I want to make sure it's perfect, that when we turned it in.
And there is one little typo on that
Yes,
page,
I'm
from
fixing
looking
that,
at it.
yeah.
In that same paragraph, it's actually in red, the district's long-term goal for high levels of success for all scholars is 80% of 3 to 5 grade scholars. That 3 to 5 should be 6 to 8, it's a 6 to 8 benchmark.
Let me change that. Reiterated in our meeting, was that meeting yesterday?
It was.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
that's the reason why, okay. So, with that, in that meeting, and then there was a meeting, after that, they set up, for us with the literacy, consultant. And their goal is not to try to, do a gotcha. They just want to make certain that, all the parts are there for everyone who reads this, and, so that they understand it.
So, President Chai, will we be making a motion tonight to approve this plan as amended that we've discussed tonight? So that once she makes the changes, she could just send it straight to ODE so that we make that November 11th. So it's there by November 11th, that deadline.
Yeah, so just one correction in there, it's our responsibility to submit the plan.
Okay,
So I guess that would be me that would send it off. But I'm just saying that just because that's very important to this whole process, is that
okay.
the board had to take these steps.
So she'll make the changes, she'll send it back to you, you'll send it to us and send it to ODE. If it's motion tonight and it passed with the amendments.
Yeah, unless we want to have another meeting, and then, you know, I know a lot of us are going to Capitol Conference next week.
And that meeting has to.
This has to be done, submitted by the 11th, so.
Are we going to move next week's board meeting to a different day?
I was going to talk about the schedule for the remainder of the year. We had an opportunity today, but I wanted to get these done.
So I would like to make a motion then at this point in time that we accept the Youngstown City School District Academic Improvement Plan as amended.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second,
and we have a second. Mr. Janetti, for you, that was Tina, and I'm sorry, Mrs. Avekovich, and Mrs. Kimball with the second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I do have a question. Always on page 55, credit key. And so I'm looking at the number of credits one needs to have through 2023. But then if only, say, 50% of our students are, whatever it is, by 2023, or 70% of this one target, what happens in terms of their credit, earning credits? If 30% or better of those are not able to perform proficiently, and especially in math. So I would think that 30% or better of those kids would not be able to earn the necessary credits that are required here on this credit key.
So I can answer your question,
sure.
Zeta. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So we provide opportunity originally to earn credit at each level,
If you fail a course, there are multiple opportunities to re-earn that credit. So we have academic intervention credit recovery that you can do during the school day, where we're provided an instructor who will monitor and facilitate that. We have after-school programming that also offers credit recovery, summer school also. So we're saying that benchmark is the first time sit through to be on target with your credit. Doesn't mean you never have another opportunity. And often we see, not all the time, but in cases we see scholars perform high on OSTs, even if they have failed a course. So they're still provided the opportunity to take the OST to connect to your question about assessment. So that is not always a direct correlation. And so we still provide that opportunity, and again, to retake. So if they missed or they would like a chance to improve the score to earn competency, diploma seals, they have multiple opportunities throughout their time in high school.
Okay, thank you.
Except for the year that I had 6 through 8, those numbers are all correct. I did use the 2021 number, and then took the 2021 percentage to and compared it to the 2025 target. So they're all correct. Sorry for the confusion there. I got confused for a second.
I did have a question. Well, we'll put back up those benchmarks. One time, the 2021, we broke out the band, the percentages. Is that correct? Because there was 6.2, 6.2.
Can't hear you, Mr. President.
So.
Mr. Marshall? Can't hear you.
Yes, so we got the baseline at 5. Um, 11, 12, and 13, excuse me.
Why don't I go back through, why don't you just give me the leeway to go back through and check that? Because we did use, those were the baseline, that is the baseline data, and that's what was used, and those numbers are right. If that baseline data, if that, the baseline grade is correct, if that number is correct though for what we're trying to do now is what we were doing before.
Yeah, and it probably won't have an impact on the overall.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
but we still want it to be 100% correct. Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes,
while you're looking through that information, can I ask a question?
of course.
Last week, kindergarten parents received letters to sign for intervention for the third grade guarantee, start working with their children. And for example, when you spoke about us getting 0 points after students are tested, what happens if a parent declines that?
I'm not exactly sure what you're referencing, but I think I know. It could have been the reading improvement monitoring plans, which, okay, the REMS. So we want parents to be an active participant in the interventions and supporting their scholars at home. So that's why we send those plans home. They're supposed to be created in collaboration with the parents so that they are, aware and an active participant in helping their scholar. Whether they sign it or not, we continue the interventions at school anyway because that's required. So the only thing that we would not be able to do would be if they were asked to participate in the after-school program. Of course, we could not keep them for after school without parental permission. But during the school day, remember that all scholars receive that extra intervention block regardless of how they're performing. So they either get remediation or enrichment during that time. And so that can take the form of the classroom teacher working with them. Some scholars benefit from Title I services. If they're identified, in the special ed department, they may have their intervention specialists working with them. But the interventions still happen regardless, unless it's that after-school program that we didn't receive permission for.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Janetti, you heard the original motion. Roll call, please.
Ms. Savikovich,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Shedd,
Yes.
Ms. Kimball,
Yes,
Ms. Adair.
Abstain.
Motion carried 6-0.
So we have our updated plan, folks. Y'all should feel very happy about this. Y'all did a lot of great work over this short time period. And you know what? I see two of our ABC members in the back. I want to thank y'all for coming out today. Ms. Cotton, who's one of our teachers at East, you're still at East, right? I couldn't see it wrong. And then Dr. McGee back there. Yeah, he's back there.
He's hiding.
And, they have been very much a great part of this process. They've come to the meetings, they've given input, and I should have asked them if there was anything that they wanted to add. Okay, so it must be good that they are shaking their head. Great. And then this has very much been a group effort, and gathering information, meeting, and making all those deadlines to meet. And I just want to thank Ms. Sawicki, Mr. Bachelor, and Ms. I forget your name, but you pop in and you bring us some good information.
My name is Miss Barney.
Ms. Varney, okay. These members of our district leadership team have really been a driving force to help us understand with these assessments, the data, the importance of the strategies that are in place. I feel really great about the work that we've been able to do. We had to get some tweaks here and there, but the state has a different lens than what they have a different lens, and they gave us some instruction that was good, and there was a change in leadership and everything like that, and I think that shifted some of the thought. One thing that we may want to consider when the time comes is you may want to look at the other plans and see what we can do to add in PBIS, because I believe some of the other districts have that in there as their benchmark. Some of them even have benchmarks associated with personnel, which we were asked to not do at the time. So there might be a change of heart once everything gets changed. So there could be some really great pieces that come from that. I was, this whole time too, people understand that each people in the range, we've had conversations with them, or they spoke to us about every step they were going. The thing here was that everybody had a different template and approach, and that caused we all had the same emotion on what we were doing, but the strategy, the design was a lot different, because their district had what they were doing in the other districts, and we had our thing. So it's the thought and the thought of what we've done. They're going through the same thing, and they've had some ups and downs, just like we have ups and downs. Every district was asked to turn in to resubmit with changes, and it's just part of it. It's just trying to get this right. You know, our districts are at stake here, and we take this very seriously. We need to have our students perform, and we need to be able to give them everything they need to be effective.
Mr. President,
Yes.
do you have information to share with us about Lorraine East Cleveland, what their plans, where were they deficient? Do you have any information?
I read over their letters, and their letters are, everyone's letter is made available at ODE. Their who was the?
Oh, yeah, they're all online if you look up Academic Distress Commission. And OD did a really nice, well, I'm just making that informational, I'm not trying to criticize. And I did read them, I read both Lorraine and East Cleveland's plans, they're very different. And as President Shad said, the templates are very different. The focus is different. ODE, I thought, did a nice job of not saying plans were deficient, but they asked us all to do similar things. We were all asked to make certain we modified the benchmarks that we were going to collect. They encouraged us to try new things and to collect data for 2021, but that we would have to resubmit for modifying the plan for next year. And they did require all of us to go to 2018, 2019 benchmarks. And some of them are very, very interesting. If you remember one of our early conversations about family engagement, and we took that out as it was not academic, that was in one of the plans, but if you read ODE's letter, they've told them that they are going to only look at the academic portions of that plan. So I didn't feel as though any of the parts we were told in Youngstown or Lorraine or East Cleveland that it was deficient. But it's good reading, it's interesting to see what the other districts are doing and how they were going about it, and ODE's response. But I thought they were pretty fair across the board.
So let's, if we could please, so next Tuesday, we'll be at, I think most of us are on the Capitol Conference. You should have your envelope with your checks in there and everything like that. So that is over around, what, noon or 3 o'clock on Tuesday? So,